Hey there, YouTube, and it's Zephyr, and we're going to be looking at a Halls of Torment update today. And this is quite long. We don't need to go through every little detail. First of all, this game is in early access. It is relatively cheap. It is inspired by kind of like a Diablo 2 meets Vampire Survivors, and it has something like 10 or 12 or something classes. There's archers, there's wizards, sorceresses, warlocks, and shield maidens, and the beast huntress or whatever. And it is a great game, and I have other videos on this as well, so you can go check those out. This is experimental build. Came out on the 10th, which was yesterday compared to when I'm recording this, and it will go out on the 14th to everyone that is not in the Steam beta here, which is totally free. You can just opt into it just by right-clicking properties and betas. If you've never used a Steam beta, that's a common practice nowadays, it seems. So, they are working on the 1.0 release. I'm not going to read everything here. They are slowing overall development, and they are ready to crack on. So this update is very balance focused. These changes mostly touch the basic character stats and both character specific and general traits. Many parts of the intended changes and upcoming complementary content are to come. So it works towards the 1.0 release, and they're working on kind of post-game content, such as the Shrine of Torment, which I covered also in another video, and they covered in multiple posts as well. So there's new quality of life, the quest tracker, which is extremely useful. Being able to pause the game or otherwise see what you are trying to accomplish has been a large frustration to know whether or not something is correctly tracking at all, if you're even close, what you need to kind of push yourself to do, because you could be coming up on 25 minutes and be right around the corner on a 30-minute run of getting an achievement or quest in this case, and which are the same thing in this game, and just not know, and then you hit it, and then you're good. But if you don't hit it, then you're just kind of scrambling. You just don't know. And some of them are like, do 100 million damage with a single ability, and it's quite difficult if you're not really doubling and tripling down on that ability. So let's see, patch notes, performance improvements. Okay, that's cool. Stability fixes. Yep. Quest tracker, quest board itself can be opened in the run. That's cool too. XP curves in some of the halls were off. This led to vastly different experience level thresholds post level 100 between different halls. Okay, post level 100. So if you're hitting level 100, you're probably set in a run. You just are. I think the highest level I've ever hit is something like 120 or something like that. And you literally run out of traits to learn unless you're doing different styles of play. Like you're not banishing anything, or you're taking every ability possible and stuff like that. So adjusted experience drops based on agony to scale more similarly between the different rooms or regions. That's good too. Let's see here. Also focusing on headgear section of items. In the future, we will try to complement and add new items in other categories. Frost Dragon Helmet. We finally have a frost item that isn't just the ring. That's good. Emits frost waves. I assume that just emits it in front of you, like a dragon breathing frost flame sort of thing. Vision Crown that increases area or range depending on whether you are moving or standing. That sounds pretty neat, actually. There's a bunch of boots that do similar kind of things, or rings or whatnot, where if you're moving or standing, you get movement speed or attack speed, and things like that. Warchief's Visor that scales force based on damage dealt. Wind Crown rework. Attack speed bonus is now uncapped. This probably makes this item really good. I don't know how useful. I mean, this item is, I think, originally capped at like 60 attack speed or 50 attack speed. So now being uncapped, but it's attack speed per kill. So if the boss spawns and you don't kill it basically instantly, you're going to lose all your stacks, and it's going to be a wasted item slot for the most part. So Wind Crown, I think that could be cool because if you go fast enough, if you continue killing fast enough, you could probably get to the boss fast enough and then kill the boss before most of your stacks run out. And that could probably work out really cool. Some uncommon variants. I hope one of those is like maybe longer duration or something to kind of help you stack. Ruby Circlet reworked. So this previously did damage. I don't know what the rework is compared to the uncommon variant here, but Ruby Circlet deals damage based, or grants damage based on how many enemies are burning within a distance around you. Looks like it comes with an uncommon variant affecting all elemental damage. Rebalance and simplified Gorgon Mask balancing. Okay, yeah, this one, I tried to make this one work. It deals magic damage based on like slows and stuff. So I'm glad that they increased the damage because that one was pretty bad to get to work. Helmet and Hood now have new values, getting seriously better. So those just give like raw stats like HP or armor. So getting seriously better. Sure. I don't know if they give those numbers at the bottom here. Does not look like it. Okay. Well, let's see here. Mask Madness now offers damage and crit in the base variant. One uncommon variant has attack speed and multi-strike. Okay, so this originally did like damage, attack speed, multi-strike. I've been wearing this in a lot of my runs. You can see my other videos for that. I don't know which ones were what, but it takes damage from you. It deals 30 damage every 30 seconds, and then would give you a random between 1 and 2% random number, and then a random damage, multi-strike, or attack speed, where these damage was higher than attack speed and multi-strike was the least common dice roll of randomness. So it looks like they are switching this up and making it just damage and crit, which crit was not in there before. And then the secondary uncommon variant would be attack speed and multi-strike. So you have to go find it now. I'm okay with that. That seems decent. Was clearly stronger than all other headgear. So much so that buffing everything else was not an option to fix the balance. Yeah, I agree with this. Outside of very specific builds, this just gave so much utility. I mean, it gave damage, it gave attack speed, it gave multi-strike. And if you were getting all the way to the end of the run, or if you were getting an uncommon variant of Mask of Madness, you could easily have something like 40% damage and 30% attack speed and like 20% multi-strike. And all those play nicely together because they are all multiplicative to each other unless something is restricted on attack speed or multi-strike in some fashion, like the fist ability cannot get multi-strike or attack speed, as far as I'm aware. Maybe it's just attack speed. I think it's both. Warhorn's balanced, and they can now be influenced by effect, chance, and area buffs. Okay, cool. Good change. Thundercrown got a new physical variant, now partially scales with stats. Wooden Ring has been changed to apply relative crit chance instead of base crit. They're not talking about this here. They're talking about this somewhere else. Base crit. So base crit is being completely changed. And since there was a helmet up there or a ring or whatever, it's a ring. There's going to be a complete change in crit chance and crit bonus. We'll come back down to this. I just want to make sure that was in this listing here. I am not going to read all of this. Anyways, so we've got some Wooden Ring has been changed to relative crit. Copper Ring has been slightly improved. They've changed all the base traits on the characters for balancing. So some of the characters had really high crit chance and some of the other characters had 0 crit chance. So they are changing this so that all characters have a base crit chance. It might be as low as 5%, but it is no longer 0. Different abilities are now being nerfed or buffed. So Area damage is being nerfed. Channeling is being force is being nerfed. Base crit chance is being changed to 10% chance. So this would add to your crit chance. So if you had 0, you'd go to 5%. This will multiply. So if you have 0, you still have 0%, but no one has 0% anymore. There might be some abilities that do, but I'm sure they'll probably change that. So 10% crit chance. So if you have 5% base, you're only going to be going to 5.5, which is good in some aspects of like damage per second and all that stuff. But it does mean that crit chance is going to be focused on specific abilities and specific gear and specific characters. I'm gonna be blunt. I don't like this change. I really enjoyed the fact that you could build crit on anyone if you wanted to, even if it was maybe less efficient. This change means that you can't really build crit on anyone because overcrits are a thing, and this is going to drastically reduce the chance of getting overcrits. It's going to drastically reduce the ability to just stack crit chance in general. So if you have a 40% chance to crit and you get, 100% extra crit chance, then you're only going to be able to get to, 80% crit or whatever. And 80% crit chance is still amazing. Don't get me wrong. But it created a situation which was both probably detrimental to the game. So I understand why the devs are doing it, but it also created a situation that was quite fun because it meant that you could adjust crit chance. It wasn't this percentage multiplier because it was base crit chance. So I hope to some degree that they leave some base crit chance somewhere that will help you to adjust that. And I do recall reading that they did it for one item. But anyways, base range on pickup has been increased for all characters from 3 meters to 4 meters. Thank you. Pickup just felt bad. So pickup range is being nerfed in the long fingers aspect, but the actual base is being increased. So I am okay with that. So it means that you don't need as much pickup range to begin with. Base block strength is going to be increased. Quick hands, they're nerfing attack speed. I understand. Swift feet, they're nerfing movement speed. Okay, they're changing movement speed to being a base movement speed buff. So they're doing the opposite of what they're doing with crit chance to the movement speed swift feet. So interestingly enough, this means that a slow character will catch up sort of with a fast character. So if you're using something like trying to think who's really slow. The Sage is super slow, one of the slowest. So if you're using a Sage, the movement speed percentage is no longer what you have to worry about. And you can now get swift feet for like 0.2 meters per second. And it means that you need to take less points into swift feet to get to where you need to kind of get a break point to escape enemies, whether they be running at you or whether their projectiles are chasing you. So I'm okay with this change. I think it's good. Base defense. So they are focusing on a little bit more of the defensive stats here. So you get more. Okay. You get less health, more defense, and more block. So they're nerfing health related stuff. So, which also nerfs Mask of Madness. It also nerfs some of the other health related items, potentially, at least at the higher end. So notice there's no nerf here on the lower end. Elevated traits are now changed to appear on level 15, 30, 60 in order to follow a pattern like most other traits. Okay, elevated traits were multi-strike or something here. Per individual trait, this makes them better than the base traits, but added together, they yield a total similar bonus. Demonic Exchange, Elemental Surge, Ethereal Shift A. Added Equilibrium option. Finally, we have some different options for Ethereal Shift. Okay. I had some beefs with Ethereal Shift because it felt like it was a required thing. 10% multi-strike for melee and projectiles. 20% force for magic and physical. Ethereal Shift changed damage buffs from 200% to 100% attack speed reduction from 50% to 30%. So doubling one of the traits will not lead to 0 attack speed for abilities and attacks. Or in my case, I hit a 0 attack damage for one of my abilities as well, because it hit into both categories. Fire, Lightning, and Ice Affinity changed 10% effect chance to 10% a strength bonus. Blessings similarly were adjusted. Okay, so increase the cost of a bunch of stuff, decrease the cost of a bunch of stuff. So, frost damage is decreased in cost. Range is increased, but also increased in cost. So it looks like the blessings are stronger, but some of the there's too many scrolling options here. Blessings are stronger, but some of the in-game traits are weaker. So we'll just go with that. Characters got many small adjustments. Let's just go down to this. Almost all offensive base values have been removed from main weapon traits. This caused a lot of bugs that led to many crashes and performance issues in combination with the Sage. I have a short video capturing one of these bugs. It didn't break the game in the sense of crashes, but it did break the game in the sense of damage. It was patched out already, but it looks like they're going to further patch out these kind of effects. So offensive base values have been removed from main weapon traits because the Sage, when they pick up a book at the beginning of a run, and that ability that they pick is their main weapon. So all the main weapon traits then applied to that ability, which then led to things like, I'm going to call it Lightning Ball. It could attack absolutely insanely fast because of some calculation issues. It was definitely a bug, which would then trigger the Electrify proc effect from the ability, and it would then hit like 20 instantly. And then there's actually some notes down below that talks about how a lot of those abilities, when they did hit max stacks, were actually doing way more damage than they were intended to do anyway. So glad to see this, sad to see it go, but I understand why they're doing it. But it also means, hopefully, we actually get some more interesting weapon traits. Maybe some just kind of more, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I haven't gone in and seen any of this. I assume this is all in the experimental build. All characters have increased crit chance from 5% to 33% and crit bonus values from 100% to 400% values. So this means that even if you're bad at crit, you still have a double damage from a 5% chance, potentially. Yeah, so I've already made my spiel on crit. Pickup range, already covered that. All players have higher regeneration, except for the Warlock. Okay. So this seems to offset some of the other issues, kind of some normalization of health regeneration. Base health of all characters is now either 300, 400, or 500. So I believe that is a buff to probably the lower end. I think there was a character with 250, but my memory is not great. Base defense and block strength have been balanced to either be 0, 10, or 20. So I think that's a buff primarily to the melee classes. Movement speed is still the same for all characters. All characters have general focus that is reflected mostly in the stance traits now. Weapon proficiency is now mainly for main attack weapons. The doubling of stats in tier 4 traits has been removed for characters that had them. We'll be adding tier 5 traits in a future update that have are more specialized for the character. Those will be base value improvements. Characters level up bonuses, main weapon traits have been adjusted for better damage scaling. Yeah, there were a bunch of them where I think it was the warrior, the swordsman had like damage or something as a percentage, which then scaled kind of equivalent to the other percentage. And if you're running a lot of damage percentage, you can easily hit 300 or 400%, which starts getting to a diminishing return of just the linear effect of the calculation. It's not like a forced diminishing return. It's not like logarithmic or anything, but it just kind of felt bad because the character level up bonuses were falling off in comparison to anything else you could equip, which made it so that the character's identity was slowly being lost. I think it was the swordsman. It might have been a couple classes in different situations. All level scaling now happens at each level, removing the every 10 levels thing. Yeah, that was weird. I don't know why that was there. I felt like it was meant to be some kind of breakpoint or threshold type thing, which I'm okay with those kind of things generally, but this seems like a good change. It just communicates better what's going on. It's not two different things, it's one thing. Everything is leveling up every level instead of one thing is leveling up every level and the other thing is leveling up every 10 levels. So we'll say that's a net positive. Swordsman is now the melee specialist. Sorry, Shield Maiden. Increase the base coverage of the swordsman. He is now base area and range scaling when leveling up. So he has huge attacks. Swordsman Mark now offers 10 base damage and 10 base defense. Okay, I like that. That's good. 10 base damage. I've run the I think it's the Iron Ring in many builds, and the base damage tends to be really good. If this applies to abilities, it's huge. And I'm going to guess it probably does. Because it's a mark and it's meant to be kind of used in different classes. Archer got probably gutted. Sorry. We know it's fun, but it crashes the game. Many base value traits are gone. More movement speed traits and base piercing scaling. The Archer already pierces 3 times. I'm not sure what piercing scaling is necessary for there, but we'll see how that plays out. Archer Mark is still adding base crit chance, defying the crit chance changes. So this is the thing that I was talking about. I'm glad that they're keeping this in because it means that, I want to say it was 15%. It means that every character now has 5% base crit. You can wear this for an extra 15 base crit, which means that you're going to hit 20 if you're on the lower end. Obviously, if you're on the higher end, say 33%, you're still going to hit 48%. And you could potentially get closer to an overcrit. Overcrits are going to probably be a lot more rare. I'd have to see how that plays out. At least more rare on probably a lot of like the base weapon stuff. Clerics attack faster and have base attack speed scaling, but they got their multi-strike reduced. Reduced or removed? I assume this is removed. I really liked the cleric multi-strike. I thought it was a really cool mechanic. It reminded me in a weird way of the paladin from Diablo who has zeal, which hits 5 times. It would have been kind of cool to see that kind of mechanic. Maybe it didn't have to be on the cleric, but it would have been kind of cool to see something that's like a triple hit, you know? And the cleric could hit triple hits pretty quickly because it had double hits anyways. And I thought that was pretty neat. So I don't know how this plays out. Multi-strike reduced. So maybe it's only like a 1.5 multi-strike instead of a 2.0. But I liked that mechanic. I thought it was cute. It was probably unnecessary since the cleric has other things going on with the magic damage and the area of effect calculation where the cleric deals damage spread across their area. Magic damage specialist, best options for debuffing enemies. So the cleric's mark now adds a fragile debuff chance to main weapons. Cool. Again, this is a pretty good change. This means that the cleric's mark is quite versatile across different classes. Exterminator still makes things burn, lower base chance to burn, but he gets a bonus chance to burn with every level up. Okay, so level up quickly on the Exterminator to make things burn. That seems like the goal there. Warlock deals more damage per hit and starts with 2 summon projectiles. This should increase its starting damage. Okay, I agree with this. This seems neat. The summon projectiles would typically fire straight in front of you and then kind of veer off sideways. They would chain through kind of like a chain lightning, which meant that you couldn't really aim them past the first target, but they would weave around in through the enemy line. Having 2 summon projectiles means that the Warlock can focus on multi-strike or spawn. Either, I don't know how all that plays out anymore, but I do believe some summons are affected by things like force, which creates more duration, which allows you to spawn more things at once, sort of. And then other things are more multi-strike or more spawn number, spawn quantity. Warlock's main damage scales with multi-strike with level ups. There we go. So he is now very multi-strike heavy with his summon spirits. The Warlock's Mark also summons a skeleton mage shooting Warlock summons. This is cool. I like this. It's not just, hey, you get access to summon stuff and 30% more damage. Now you actually have a reason to wear this that is not use the summons that already exist, but now you can make any character basically use the Warlock summons. Cool stuff. Sorcerer seriously dealt far more damage than other classes without any buffs. Did she? I don't remember feeling that. Archer, sure. I don't know about Sorceress. Sorceress was, I don't know. I felt like she had to build up a little bit. She wasn't as bad as a Sage, but yeah, if you built her right, I guess probably in the mid-late game, mid of a run or the late of the run, it was pretty strong. So anyways, applies Electrify on crits instead of all hits. Her mark now allows you to do the same. Does her mark stack with this? I would hope so. I would hope so. I think that all characters should stack with their mark. So a 50% chance. So her mark would probably bring that to 100%. So this is kind of a nerf that then you have to wear the mark to get the previous. She now has base crit chance on her main weapon. Shield main got her melee traits removed and got more defensive block strength traits. The shield bash is now manually triggered and uses after the mace attack. Huh. I'd have to see how that plays out. I did promise to use the shield main again because I failed on my previous shield main run, I think, was the class that I failed on, and I will do another shield main run one of these days. And this game is still in early access, so I probably will do some more runs with this game in general. I'm just kind of focused on finishing up my Grandia run and finishing up my Diablo 2 kind of beta test here. I got real life to deal with as well. This is not my day job. I don't make any money from this currently. Just put it out there. I just like these games. Mark of the Shield now adds percentage block strength as percentage damage bonus. Block strength and damage bonus resulting from it. So this means that the Shield Maiden gets stronger when she finds her mark and then can use her own mark, or other classes can use her mark. So, for example, I could see the Sorceress using this. The Sorceress has high block chance. And, or did. I don't know if they've changed that. So you could use this and get bonus damage from the mark and get bonus block strength on the Sorceress. Norseman is now ice-based, with the Beast Huntress is now physical. Thank you. They both were doing physical, melee, and ice projectiles. It was weird. So the Norseman has two axes, and then every time he hits something like 100 enemies, so area and attack speed and all that stuff would trigger the Ice Nova. And then the Ice Nova would do just absolutely crazy good damage and just obliterate things. So if you just attacked fast enough, you didn't need any damage on your weapon. And then the Beast Huntress had a ice spear, but a melee summon, a melee physical summon. So splitting those apart and making the Beast Huntress just physical, I agree with this 100% because they were both doing both physical and ice together. It was weird, and both of them did melee physical, but one did it on a pet. We've also removed the specialized traits for now, but they're likely to come back. Okay, we'll see what happens there. Norseman's Frost Nova, 100% chance to frost that scales with level ups, but no longer deals damage. Okay, so that's a pretty big nerf to the Norseman, I think. Frost Nova can be acquired on other characters with the Norseman's mark. I hope that stacks on the Norseman. I hope that the Norseman isn't just getting robbed by wearing his own mark. That would be, in my opinion, very bad game design. So unless it's doing a double Nova or doing something else, then I would say it needs to be changed. It needs to make sure that it works on the character that it comes from. Swordsman, like the Swordsman, Norseman's area, blah, 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 increases with level ups area and range. Hits are weaker, but occur far more often. They're playing him with base damage upgrades, such as the Swordsman's Mark. Beast Hunter is now faster in attacking, such as the Hound, since they no longer deal frost damage. Beast Hunter can now scale physical damage. Hound has bigger range of freedom. He's hitting faster, and his bite attack scales better. His movement is faster as well. Hound needs someone to walk him out more often. Equipping the Mark of the Beast makes the Hound tag along. Again, if that doesn't work with the Beast Huntress, it doesn't have to do the exact same thing, but, you know, making it do 30% more damage or something on the Beast Huntress while giving the Hound a normal value on other classes. I don't want to see the marks be only used on classes that aren't the original class. Lensnock's grenades are redone. They were cause of a lot of lag. Now trigger every 3 seconds, and the damage is based on the damage of the projectile in between those triggers. Okay. Now only scale with multi-strike and area. In exchange, all other characters get access to the grenade traits when the Mark of the Grenadier is equipped. Lensnock gets the base value improvements removed from her stances. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. I'm not sure if I agree with that. I understand there were some code issues and lag, but I would love to see the grenades trigger more than every 3 seconds and still keep their damage values. Damage is based on the damage of projectile in between those triggers. I'd have to test that out and see how that feels. I really personally enjoyed watching the grenades go ham. You got enough attack speed, you got enough projectiles, and your grenades were just popping off every direction, exploding all over the place. So I hope there's some talents that reduce the cooldown on that every 3 seconds thing, whatever. This video is getting really long. I'm going to speed up here a little bit. So Burn and Electrify used to trigger all attacks on the 21st stack. This has been changed. Now they deal a flat amount of damage. Frost attacks were not being removed, and they will now be removed. Burn duration has been reduced to 2 seconds and triggering every 0.2 seconds, making it apply the damage faster. Burn damage adjustments is also damage is higher. So burns faster, damage is higher. So I believe it was buffed at one point from 20 to 30. Maybe it was 30 to 40, but I think it was 20 to 30. So doing 50 is quite a bit of damage there. I don't know that it needed to be reduced in duration. The burn here is fine. I also don't know that we needed caps to it, but that's just me. Some quest stuff. So this has to do with how you unlock stuff. It's all related to kind of how stuff was done. They've got a big spiel at the bottom here. I love talking balancing. I love modding games. I love balancing games. So I love balancing talk. Basically, just to overview this, they want to get the game in a good state for final release. They understand that people are playing both experimental and early access. Overall, they appreciate people testing and playing and understanding how the game works to the point that they've found overpowered builds. And they don't want to get rid of overpowered builds. They say it. This doesn't mean we want to get rid of overpowered builds. But they understand that being able to create insanely powerful combinations is part of the fun. A form of theory crafting is what I would call it. The player's characters constitute a foundation for all balancing. They need to be fairly even in the power distribution in order to serve that purpose well. I agree. The different character classes were not balanced. The Archer was probably one of the strongest character classes in general. The Sage, once you got him going, and if you were in the late game with a lot of blessings, the Sage could do some crazy stuff too. But yeah, having a baseline. I am a big believer in having a good baseline. If you don't have a good foundation, you can't really stand up on that foundation. You can't stand on your own if you don't have your own foundation in the sense of a game's design. Just simply mimicking something or having a lot of different things all over the place may make half the game feel great and half the game feel bad. And depending on what character the player picks for a character or focuses on, might end up feeling absolutely terrible. Which means an uneven experience for players that maybe want a specific play style. It's never perfectly balanced. No game is perfectly balanced. And if it is, it might even be incorrectly balanced in a lot of ways. So just my 2 cents on balance there. I strongly believe that things should have combination and overpowered builds and secrets, or things that you didn't think would work that way, and then you figure it out and you go, oh, that's awesome. You need those moments of emotion. You need those ups and downs, the challenges and the successes in a game. So while it was fun to be able to just stack critical or stack Mask of Madness bonuses, that rebalance was necessary. And this is one of the reasons I play early access games. I do like watching the progress, the evolution of a game. I know a lot of people don't like early access games. I've been playing Hades lately, Hades 2 in early access, and I've seen some comments about stuff like that. But I like to see the evolution of a game, at least a little bit here and there. So this is fun for me. Base progression. Each stat has a base scaling value, which is 5%, 10%, or 20% more uniform scaling of traits, depending on how impactful it is. Depending on the context, the base scaling value is multiplied. For example, blessings and general traits get a 1-point multiplier, 1.0 multiplier. Specialized character traits get a 2-point multiplier. And main weapon traits usually give a 3. But trait affects multiple stats. These multipliers are distributed so they sum up to these target values. Items that increase stats aim for a 5 times multiplier in common variants and a 10 times multiplier in uncommon variants. Elevated traits usually aim to have a total multiplier between 5 and 6. That's a lot of numbers and words, and I could not tell you exactly what's going on there in the context of specific traits and what an elevated trait is or whatnot. What they're more or less saying is something that only applies to, say, fire damage might have a 2 or a 1 or something. Whereas if a trait affects like attack speed and movement speed, or crit and crit chance, or something like that, they might have a lower multiplier so that they sum up to the value of another multiplier. So whether it be giving multiple stats in one trait, or a trait that affects like all physical damage or just simply all damage, they're going to kind of offset those by these multiplier ratios. So more of like a peek behind the curtain on how they're calculating that. Changes in crit and crit stuff. We received regular feedback recording the notation we use to indicate race crit values in which players considered them could be confusing or awkward to parse. Sure. Okay. All crit-related modifiers, with a few exceptions, are now percentage-based. We wanted different characters to benefit differently from base crit values and have some diversity in the build mechanic. Prior to this patch, the amount of base crit traits and buffs had led to a state which it wouldn't make a big difference if a character would start with 0 or 50% base crit. Now things should be simpler and be more obvious which character would benefit from these crit values. Okay, so a sense of communication and design is here, and I'm okay with this. I'm okay with this explanation. I did like the previous system, and I understand why they changed it, and I am not personally strongly against it. But I did enjoy it the other way around and kind of would probably have kept it. But yeah, this makes sense that people were getting confused by it or misunderstanding it, because we are talking about like percentage multipliers, and then we're talking about percentage points as a base value, and that can get confusing. I understand. So I call this communication and design. as a principle, basically. And I understand that as a concept there. We've changed the way that you increase defensive stats in order for base values of characters and items to be more significant. So probably percentage increases in defense in the future. This will render melee characters more useful since they have better defense base values. We believe this change will have an impact on early to mid game and when playing the Shrine of Torment. For the current late game, this change will probably have very little impact. Okay, again, I like the fact that you can make a less tanky class more tanky, but these defensive values are going to scale as a percentage in the future. They don't have this completely. So there's going to be some stuff here, which means your item selection might be a little more important. And most people were not taking defensive values anyway. So I'm curious on, I know I would, but a lot of people don't. They're typically the first to get banished by one of your potions. So anyway, we'll see how that plays out. I don't have any disagreements on this change. Tanky classes should be tanky and less tanky classes should have to fight for it. But I do think that if you're a less tanky class, say the Warlock or something, you have no health regeneration or whatever it is, and then you have low base defense or whatever. I do think that being able to equip certain items or taking certain talents should be able to get you to be tanky. You may not be as tanky as the Shield Maiden, but you should be able to actually survive hits in a way that makes you a tankier character playstyle. Especially if you're wearing something like the Shield Maiden's block chance mark. Let's see here. So buffing dots and stuff. Burn is ticking faster, electrify stacks remain longer, and Frost has a better area scaling. This will affect builds and stuff. Yeah, I agree with this, though. Elementals, it was very focused on getting that. It was very much about getting the burst proc, about getting that 20th hit of electrify, or the 20th hit of burn or whatever, or ever how that worked. And I would rather just stack it. Just give me 100 burn stacks. That's just my mentality. So I'm going to be in agreement with this change. In the items department, the patch contains rather few balancing adjustments. We'll be focusing on adding more items in the future. I think there's quite a few items. There's not a lot of diversity in some of those items. You have an elemental ring, a magic ring, that's 4 different rings for the 3 elements in the magic. Some stuff like that. There could be definitely some more diversity in some of the items. Even the items that exist could have some more diversity, probably. And I'm not a big fan of a lot of the uncommon variants, though. So that's another thing. It would be nice to be able to target maybe specific items in some way during your run instead of having to simply. They have smart loot in this game, where if you equip an item, say the Iron Ring, you will be more likely to get the uncommon variant of the Iron Ring in your run. And you can't get you can't wear uncommons outside of the run. So I personally would love a way to do that without having to start with the Iron Ring. I think it would be cool to have a way to target specific gear, even if it was just like 1 item or 2 items or something. But that's just me. So really long video, but it's also really long patch notes here. And this is on the experimental build and will be going live on the 14th. So they say stay fresh, chasing carrots. Tell me what you think in the comments. Give this video an upvote, please, and subscribe for more news. I don't cover news all the time. I'm just covering games that I really enjoy and think deserve that kind of coverage. So I'm also doing a Grindia video today, as they just dropped a whopper of a change in difficulty, and I may cover some ideas in, say, Dota 2 in the future, but I'm not going to be a Dota 2 channel. I'm not going to be a Halls of Torment channel. But I'm just going to cover games that I like and have really interesting mechanics, because I love talking about mechanics, balance, and design. So if you've stayed this far into the video, thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great day either way.